Welcome to How to Improve Science Performance Through Strategic Note-Taking.
Welcome. Today we will be talking about more relationships in our natural world. We have covered predator and prey relationships. We have also talked about producers, consumers, and decomposers. Today we will be learning about symbiotic relationships. What is symbiosis? Please make note. The literal definition is the act of living together. What that means is two organisms that live together, temporarily or for a longer time. At least one of the organisms benefits from the relationship. Write this down. A symbiotic relationship, or symbiosis, occurs when two species live in close contact with one another. There are three main categories of symbiosis, based on whether the relationship is harmful or helpful to one or both of the species. The first symbiotic relationship we will be talking about is mutualism. Remember that mutualism is a symbiotic relationship that benefits both species. For example, crocodile birds, called Egyptian plovers, are an example of mutualism. According to legend, they hang out in a crocodile's mouth to pick food from their teeth. The plover gets to eat, and the crocodile gets its teeth cleaned. Now, before you go getting squeamish on me about mutualism, you should know that we are all living examples of symbiosis. Inside our intestines, bacteria are helping us to digest our food. Those bacteria have a food supply, and we have a wider range of things to eat. However, not all types of symbiosis are beneficial. In parasitism, one species grows stronger by harming another species. Take the botfly. The botfly, this nasty little booger, spends the first part of its life inside the bodies of mammals. Once a botfly egg gets under an animal's skin, it hatches and burrows into the flesh. A botfly larva grows to maturity inside its animal host, totally safe from predators. When it's all grown, it crawls to the surface and hops away. As for the holes, he'll usually develop a big old lump and experience some serious pain. And after the larva crawls out of its hole, can become very infected. Don't worry, it's pretty rare for a botfly to bite a human. The next type of symbiotic relationship is commensalism. Commensalism is where one species benefits or gets something positive and the other is unaffected. It's pretty common. For example, some tropical orchids grow in trees. By positioning itself on a branch, the orchid can get the sunlight that it needs to live and grow. It doesn't hurt the tree at all, but it does not help it either. Today our lecture is specifically about mutualism. Remember this, take note of it. A mutualistic relationship is when two organisms or different species work together, each benefiting from the relationship. One example of a mutualistic relationship, or mutualism, is that of the oxpecker, which is a kind of bird, and the rhinoceros, or zebra. Oxpeckers land on rhinos or zebras and eat ticks and other parasites that live on their skin. The oxpeckers get food, and the beasts get pest control. Also, when there is a danger, the oxpeckers fly upward and scream a warning, which helps the symbiont, which is a name for the other partner in a relationship. It is important to know that organisms in a mutualistic relationship evolved together. Each was part of the other's environment. So as they adapted to their environment, they made use of each other in a way that benefited both. Mutualism is everywhere in nature. Here are 3 other examples of a mutualistic relationship. The bee and the flower. Bees fly from flower to flower gathering nectar, which they make into food, benefiting the bees. When they land in a flower, the bees get some pollen on their hairy bodies, and when they land in the next flower, some of the pollen from the first rubs off, pollinating the plant. This benefits the plants. In this mutualistic relationship, the bees get to eat and the flowering plants get to reproduce. Next, we have the spider crab and the algae. Spider crabs live in shallow areas of the ocean floor, and greenish-brown algae lives on the crab's back, making the crabs blend in with their environment and unnoticeable to predators. The algae gets a good place to live, and the crab gets camouflage. Next, we have the bacteria and the human. A certain kind of bacteria lives in the intestines of humans and many other animals. The human cannot digest all of the food that it eats. The bacteria eat the food that the human cannot digest and partially digests it, allowing the human to finish the job. The bacteria benefit by getting food, and the human benefits by being able to digest the food it eats. In mutualism, the symbiotic relationship of individuals of different species in which both individuals benefit from the association. In this type of symbiosis, both organisms of different species rely on another for nutrients, protection, or other life functions. Hence, they usually live in close proximity. They live near each other. It can be thought of as a form of biological barter or trade, since the species trade resources or services or protection from the predators. A great way to remember the symbiotic relationship between organisms where both are helped can be signified by the symbols plus plus. Both organisms benefit. This relationship is called mutualism. The relationship is positive for both species. 2 pluses. Algae provide the fungi with food through photosynthesis. Mutualistic relationships between animals and plants or microorganisms also exist. Some plants must be pollinated by insects who obtain food from plant in the form of pollen or nectar. In other cases, mutualism can exist between 2 African species, animal species. African tick birds, for example, obtain a steady food supply by cleaning parasites from the skin of giraffe, zebras, and other game animals. In conclusion, our lecture on mutualism, we want to talk about, kind of sum up what all of this means. I can put it in one phrase: pairing up for success. Living in the wild can be hard. Finding food and staying safe aren't easy. Each day, animals struggle to survive in their habitats. Not all animals get by on their own. Some animals form a close partnership with other kinds of animals. These pairings are called symbiotic relationships. In a mutualistic relationship, the animals depend on each other. One animal helps the other meet its needs. Both animals benefit or get help from living with the other animal. Check out these last few examples of how animals pair up to survive. These 2 we call the ones that clean up. Small animals called cleaner shrimps have found a way of helping fish at the coral reefs. As their name suggests, the shrimps clean the fish. Here's how it works. The shrimps hang out at what scientists call a cleaning station. A a fish stops by. Then a shrimp climbs onto the fish. The shrimp even steps into the fish's mouth. The shrimp uses its tiny claws to pick stuff off the fish's body. That can include dead skin, tiny pieces of food, and wee creatures that can hurt the fish. The fish gets a nice cleaning. The shrimp enjoys a tasty meal of fish trash. This is so cool, isn't it? Remember the plover? Small birds called plovers are also in the cleaning business. They have big customers, crocodiles. Crocs have long snouts filled with sharp teeth. Cleaning them is tricky. That's where the plover comes in. When a croc opens its mouth, the plover hops right in. See that plover? He hops right in. The croc does not snap its mouth shut. Instead, it lets the plover eat small, harmful animals attached to the crocodile's teeth. The plover gets an easy meal, and the croc gets clean teeth. The next one we'll call catching a ride. Many animals have to chase after a meal. Not the oxpecker. Instead of swooping through the sky searching for insects, this bird catches a ride aboard large animals, from antelope to zebras. And you say, don't those animals mind carrying birds on their backs? No. You see, an oxpecker picks ticks and other pests off its buddy's body. That helps the animal stay free of blood-sucking bugs. In exchange, the oxpecker gets plenty of food. It's a perfect relationship. Egrets also hang out with large animals. An egret is another type of bird. They hang out with animals such as hippos and rhinos. When those big beasts walk, their feet stir up insects and other small animals on the ground. That means the egret doesn't have to look far for a meal. Some animals need each other because they like the same food. Take the honey-guide bird and the ratel. They live on grasslands in Africa. Both animals love honey, yet each has a problem getting some. The bird can find a beehive, but can't open it. The ratel can open a hive, but doesn't know how to find one. So the two animals team up. The bird flies over the grasslands, looking for the hives. When it spots one, it swoops down and makes a noise. The sound tells the ratel to come eat. The ratel uses its sharp claws to tear apart the hive. It gobbles up most of the honey-covered mess. Then the honey-guide bird enjoys finishing off the leftovers. Another beautiful partnership. Next, we have not only land and sky animals that work together, but some sea animals. One of the oddest couples is made up of the sea anemone and the clownfish. I'm sure you guys all remember Nemo. You might think sea anemones look like plants, but they're really hungry animals. They attach themselves to a rock or a coral reef. There, they wait for a fish to swim by. Then they sting it with their tentacles. The stunned fish is then pulled into the sea anemone's hidden mouth. Still, one daring fish makes its home among sea anemones. It's the clownfish. This orange and white fish isn't kidding around. Its body is shielded by a thick layer of mucus. The slime protects the clownfish from the sea anemone's dangerous stinging tentacles. The clownfish is also a good neighbor. It helps the sea anemone by luring in fish. When a hungry fish spots a colorful clownfish, it darts towards it. The clownfish safely swims under the anemone's tentacles. If the hungry fish follows, it gets stung. Then it becomes the anemone's next meal. The brave clownfish not only reels in fish food, it chases away fish that might eat an anemone. So the clownfish and the anemone help keep each other fed and kept safe. All animals want to do one thing. They want to survive in the wild. Some do that by living alone. Others live in flocks, herds, hives, packs, or schools. Some animals, both large and small, know the best way to stay alive is to live with or near other kinds of animals. At first glance, these teammates don't seem to make sense. If you look more closely, you'll soon learn that these animals help one another find food, shelter, and safety. They make the most of their various differences. These unlikely partners pair up to get the most out of life. Mutualism. Teamwork.